You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. What if I told you that mental strength isn't built in moments of motivation, but in the quiet, boring rituals you repeat every single day? Not when life is easy, but when you're tired, ignored, stressed, or tempted to react emotionally. Most people wait for confidence to appear. Stoics did the opposite. They trained their minds daily so that when chaos arrived, they were already unshakable. If you've ever felt mentally drained, easily triggered, or stuck in cycles of overthinking, this video is for you. These aren't abstract philosophies or motivational quotes you forget tomorrow. These are 9 daily Stoic rituals practiced by men who faced exile, war, betrayal, and loss, yet remained calm, disciplined, and powerful from the inside out. Each ritual you'll learn today rewires how you respond to pressure, disrespect, uncertainty, and fear. Miss one and you weaken the chain. Apply all 9 consistently, and you begin to develop a mind that cannot be controlled by emotions, people, or circumstances. Watch this video till the very end because the final ritual ties everything together, and without it, true mental strength is incomplete. If you're serious about becoming mentally unbreakable, don't skip a second. Number 1. Morning negative visualization. When you wake up in the morning, your mind is soft clay. It hasn't fully hardened into the worries, expectations, and assumptions of the day. That's exactly when you practice negative visualization. Not to become pessimistic, not to invite dread, but to build emotional armor before the world starts testing you. The Stoics called this premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. It sounds dramatic, but it's actually liberating. You are not predicting disaster. You are rehearsing resilience. Before you reach for your phone, before you let noise flood your head, sit still, close your eyes, take a slow breath in through your nose and let it out gradually. Then allow your mind to imagine that today may not unfold the way you want it to. Plans could stall, people might misunderstand you, something you value could shift, change, or even disappear. Let yourself picture it clearly. Don't rush. Don't skim the surface. Feel the discomfort rise slightly. That's the point. You're not harming yourself, you're strengthening yourself. You are teaching your nervous system that you can look at difficulty without flinching. Seneca wrote, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." Read that slowly. When you voluntarily consider loss, frustration, or inconvenience, you drain them of surprise. Most suffering doesn't come from the event itself, it comes from the shock of it. The "this shouldn't be happening" reaction. Negative visualization dismantles that illusion. It whispers to you, of course this could happen, and if it does, you will handle it. That shift is powerful. It turns you from a victim of circumstance into a prepared participant in reality. But you must practice this intentionally. Don't let your imagination spiral into catastrophe. This isn't about feeding anxiety. It's about measured contemplation. Imagine challenges in proportion. See obstacles as part of the structure of life, not as personal attacks. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. Notice the calm realism in that. He wasn't bitter, he was prepared. When something difficult happened, he wasn't shocked. He had already accepted its possibility. You can do the same. Each morning, identify 3 things you rely on: comforts, expectations, outcomes. Then briefly imagine them disrupted, not destroyed in some dramatic way, just altered, delayed, removed. Feel the slight resistance in your chest, then breathe into it. Tell yourself, if this changes, I remain steady. Repeat that phrase until it feels less theoretical and more embodied. This is mental conditioning. You are building calluses where you used to bruise. Here, as another exercise. After visualizing potential setbacks, immediately follow with this question. What part of this is within my control? Maybe your attitude, maybe your effort, maybe your integrity. Anchor yourself there. Epictetus said, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." That sentence can become your morning compass. You are not trying to control outcomes. You are training your response. When you visualize difficulties and then calmly identify your sphere of control, you create psychological stability before the first challenge even arrives. Negative visualization also deepens gratitude in a way shallow positivity never can. When you imagine the temporary nature of what you have, your health, your relationships, your routines, you begin to value them more intensely. Not cling to them, value them. There's a difference. Clinging comes from fear of loss. Appreciation comes from awareness of impermanence. When you remind yourself that nothing is guaranteed, even for a moment, you step into the present more fully. You soften, you pay attention, you stop assuming permanence. That alone strengthens your mind. You might resist this practice at first. It may feel uncomfortable. Good. Growth rarely feels cozy. You are stretching your tolerance for uncertainty. You are expanding your emotional range. The goal is not to eliminate fear entirely. It's to reduce its authority over you. When you voluntarily face small doses of imagined adversity each morning, you build immunity to panic. Over time, you will notice something subtle but profound. When real disruptions occur, your reaction is less explosive. You've been here before mentally. You rehearsed it, and because you rehearsed it, you remain composed. Try structuring your morning ritual like this. Wake up, sit upright, and take 5 slow breaths. Then spend 5 minutes visualizing potential obstacles. Keep it contained. Don't wander aimlessly through every possible disaster. Choose a few realistic difficulties, see them clearly, feel the emotional flicker. Then practice steady breathing as you repeat, I can endure this. I can respond wisely. Finally, end with gratitude. Open your eyes and name 3 things that are present right now that you value. Feel appreciation, not because they will last forever, but because they exist in this moment. The beauty of this ritual is that it transforms fear into familiarity. The unknown loses some of its sting. You become less fragile because you are no longer pretending that life owes you smoothness. You accept that friction is part of the design. And when you stop arguing with reality, your energy returns to you. That reclaimed energy becomes focus. It becomes clarity. It becomes quiet confidence. Remember, this isn't about becoming cold or detached. It's about becoming grounded. There's warmth in preparedness. There's peace in acknowledging impermanence. When you practice morning negative visualization, you are telling yourself, I do not need perfect conditions to remain stable. That statement alone can reshape your day. It places strength inside you instead of outside in circumstances. Over weeks and months, this ritual compounds. Your threshold for stress increases. Your tolerance for uncertainty expands. You stop reacting impulsively because you've already contemplated disruption. You've already accepted that change is woven into the fabric of existence. As Marcus Aurelius said, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. When you visualize impediments in advance, you are mentally transforming them into pathways. You are rehearsing adaptation. So begin tomorrow morning. Don't wait for a crisis to convince you. Sit in stillness. Look directly at the possibility of discomfort. Breathe through it. Claim your agency. Practice your response. Then rise and meet the day not with naive optimism but with steady readiness. That is unbreakable mental strength, not the absence of difficulty, but the calm acceptance of its arrival and the quiet certainty that you will endure. Number 2, voluntary discomfort practice. Voluntary discomfort practice is where your mental strength stops being theoretical and starts becoming real. It's easy to talk about resilience when life is smooth. It's easy to quote wisdom when you're comfortable, well-rested, and undisturbed. But Stoicism was never meant to be a philosophy of comfort. It was training, preparation, a deliberate conditioning of the mind. Seneca put it plainly, set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, and ask yourself, is this the condition that I feared? That question is everything. Is this what you were so afraid of? Most of the time, the answer is no. The fear was larger than the experience. The imagination was harsher than the reality. And that's exactly why you practice discomfort on purpose. You don't do this to punish yourself. You don't do it to prove toughness. You do it to shrink fear down to its actual size. Comfort, when uninterrupted, makes your mind fragile. It teaches you to expect ease. It conditions you to resist inconvenience. And slowly, quietly, you become dependent on conditions being favorable. That dependence is weakness. Not moral weakness, structural weakness. If your stability requires everything to go right, then you're always one disruption away from collapse. Voluntary discomfort breaks that dependency. It reminds you that you can endure more than you think, that you are adaptable, that you don't fall apart just because something feels unpleasant. Start small. That's important. This isn't about extreme acts. It's about consistent friction. Choose one controlled discomfort each day, something safe, something manageable, then lean into it without complaint. Notice your mind's resistance. Observe how quickly it wants relief. Watch how it negotiates, rationalizes, dramatizes. That voice is your training partner. Don't silence it aggressively. Study it. When it says, "This is unnecessary," calmly respond, "This is preparation." When it says, "I don't like this," answer, "I don't need to like it." There's power in that shift. You move from emotional reaction to chosen endurance. Epictetus reminded his students, difficulties are things that show what men are. If that's true, and it is, then you shouldn't wait for uncontrolled difficulty to reveal you. You should introduce manageable difficulty yourself. Controlled exposure builds capacity. Each time you willingly endure something uncomfortable, you send a message to your nervous system. Discomfort is survivable. It's not a threat. It's a sensation. That message rewires you, slowly, steadily. And over time, your tolerance expands. Pay attention to your breathing during discomfort practice. This is crucial. Your breath will tighten automatically. Your body will interpret discomfort as danger. Override that gently. Slow your inhale, extend your exhale, stay present. You are teaching yourself to remain composed inside stress. That skill transfers. When real challenges appear, your body remembers the rehearsal. Instead of spiraling, you stabilize. Instead of reacting impulsively, you hold your ground. That's how mental strength is built, not through declarations, but through repetition. You also need to separate pain from harm. The Stoics were clear about this distinction. Discomfort is not damage. Effort is not injury. Inconvenience is not catastrophe. Your mind tends to blur these lines. Voluntary discomfort sharpens them again. When you willingly experience mild hardship, you recalibrate your perception. What once felt overwhelming begins to feel manageable. What once seemed intolerable becomes neutral. And you start to see how much of your past anxiety was simply unfamiliarity with discomfort. There's another layer here that matters. Voluntary discomfort reduces your fear of loss. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment." That's easier said than done when you've built your life around ease. When you practice going without, even briefly, you loosen attachment. You remind yourself that you are not defined by constant access to convenience. You can function with less, you can think clearly with less, you can remain steady with less. That realization is liberating. It takes away the terror of "what if I lose this?" Because you've already proven to yourself that you can endure absence. Make this ritual deliberate. Don't drift into it casually. Decide in advance what discomfort you'll practice. Set the intention in the morning. Tell yourself, "Today I train." That framing changes everything. You're no longer a victim of inconvenience. You're an active participant in your own strengthening. Afterward, reflect. Ask yourself, what did I feel? Where did I want to quit? What thoughts surfaced? Write it down. This reflection deepens the practice. It transforms experience into insight. You'll notice something subtle as you continue. Your emotional reactivity decreases. Things that once irritated you barely register. Minor disruptions don't hijack your mood. That's not numbness, it's stability. You've expanded your threshold. You've built psychological calluses. And just like physical calluses, they form through repeated friction, not avoidance of it, but stay balanced. The goal isn't constant deprivation, it's intentional exposure. You are strengthening your relationship with discomfort, not glorifying suffering. There's a difference. The Stoics didn't chase pain for its own sake. They used it as training. They understood that life will bring hardship regardless. Voluntary practice ensures you're not meeting it unprepared. When resistance shows up, and it will, lean into it gently. Don't argue with it for long, just act. Often the anticipation is worse than the act itself. Once you begin, the mind settles, and afterward there's a quiet pride, not ego, not bravado, just a steady recognition I can handle more than I thought. Repeat that daily. Build the evidence. Let your confidence rest on proof, not affirmation. Mental strength is not loud. It doesn't need to announce itself. It's the calm voice inside you that says, "This is uncomfortable, but I'm steady." It's the grounded presence that doesn't panic when conditions shift. It's the quiet resilience that doesn't beg for ease. So practice. Intentionally. Consistently. Choose friction over fragility. Choose preparation over dependence. Let discomfort be your teacher instead of your enemy. Over time, you will trust yourself more deeply. Not because life becomes easier, but because you've become sturdier. And when real trials arrive, and they will, you won't scramble. You'll recognize the sensation. You'll steady your breath. You'll remember your training. And you'll stand firm, not because it feels good, but because you've already learned that you can. Number 3, control versus no control reflection. One of the most powerful rituals you can practice every single day is the simple, almost ruthless act of separating what you control from what you don't. It sounds basic, almost too basic, but don't underestimate it. This small mental habit, done consistently, can fortify your mind in ways that nothing else can. The Stoics built their philosophy on this foundation. Epictetus opened his Enchiridion with a line that should be etched into your thinking. Some things are up to us and some things are not. That's it. That's the dividing line between inner strength and chronic frustration. And every day, whether you realize it or not, you are choosing which side of that line you live on. You need to make this reflection a daily ritual, not a once-in-a-while realization. Because your mind, left unattended, will constantly wander into territories you don't own. It will obsess over outcomes. It will replay conversations. It will attempt to control how others think, how events unfold, how the future arranges itself. And when it fails, as it inevitably will, it will feel powerless. But here's the truth. You were never meant to control those things. Your power is narrower than your fear suggests, but far more potent than your anxiety admits. Start each morning by asking yourself one direct question. What is within my control today? Not in theory. Not in abstraction. Today, the answer is always internal. Your effort, your attitude, your preparation, your words, your choices, your willingness to stay disciplined. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Notice the precision, not some power, not occasional influence. Power over your mind, that's your arena, that's your battlefield. Everything else is weather. Then ask the second question with equal clarity. What is not in my control today? Other people's opinions, external outcomes, sudden disruptions, delays, mistakes already made, the past, the distant future. List them mentally. Be honest. And then practice letting them go before the day even begins. This is not passive resignation. It's strategic focus. You are choosing not to bleed energy into spaces where your effort cannot produce change. If you want to build unbreakable mental strength, you must become disciplined about this boundary. Because most mental suffering comes from crossing it. You try to control what someone else thinks. You try to guarantee success. You try to eliminate uncertainty. And the more you try, the more tension builds. Seneca warned, he who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary. When you fixate on what you cannot command, you suffer twice. Once in imagination, once in reality. Why volunteer for that? Here's a practical exercise. At the end of each day, sit quietly for 5 minutes. Replay the day in your mind, but filter it through the lens of control. Where did you focus on what you could influence? Where did you drift into frustration over what you could? Don't judge yourself harshly. Just observe. The goal is awareness. Awareness creates adjustment. Adjustment builds strength. You can also write this down. Draw a line down the center of a page. On the left, write within my control. On the right, write outside my control. Populate both columns honestly. Then make a commitment tomorrow. I will invest my emotional energy only on the left side. This simple visual act trains your brain. It rewires your default reaction. Over time, you'll notice something subtle but powerful. You stop reacting impulsively to external chaos. You begin responding intentionally from your inner core. And here's where the ritual becomes transformative. You don't just acknowledge the boundary, you accept it. Acceptance is the hard part. It's easy to intellectually understand that you can't control everything. It's harder to emotionally release it, but this is where strength is forged. Every time you consciously say, "This is not mine to command," you are strengthening your inner stability. You are refusing to let the uncontrollable dictate your state. This doesn't make you indifferent, it makes you focused. There's a difference. Indifference is apathy. Focus is discipline. You still care, you still act, you still strive, but you detach your peace from the outcome. You anchor it instead to your effort. That shift changes everything, because effort is always available to you. Outcome is not. Throughout the day, pause when you feel agitation rising, that spike of irritation, that wave of anxiety. Use it as a cue. Ask yourself immediately, is this within my control? If the answer is no, breathe deeply and release it. Literally exhale longer than you inhale. Signal to your body that it's safe to let go. If the answer is yes, then act. Do something, even a small step. Action dissolves helplessness when control is present. Acceptance dissolves stress when it is not. This ritual will feel repetitive at first. Good. Repetition builds resilience. Mental strength is not dramatic. It's built in quiet, consistent reflections. It's forged in the daily decision to stop fighting reality and start mastering your response to it. Epictetus didn't promise that life would be orderly. He promised that your judgment about life could be. And judgment is always yours. You'll notice as you practice this that your emotional volatility decreases. You stop swinging wildly between hope and despair based on circumstances. You become steadier, more grounded, less reactive. This is not because life has become easier. It's because you've become clearer about where your authority begins and ends. And clarity is power. So commit to this ritual. Morning and night, ask the questions. Draw the line, reflect honestly, adjust gently. Do not skip days when you feel strong, especially then. Strength maintained becomes strength multiplied. You are training your mind to stay in its lane, to cultivate excellence where it has influence, to release what it cannot shape. Over time, this practice becomes instinctive. You'll catch yourself mid-thought, recognizing when you're drifting into uncontrollable territory. You'll redirect without drama, without frustration. Just a quiet internal correction. That's mental strength. Not loud, not showy, just firm. Remember this, the world will always contain unpredictability. People will remain autonomous. Events will unfold without consulting you. But your response, your discipline, your interpretation, your effort, that remains yours. Guard it fiercely. Refine it daily. And trust that by mastering this one Stoic ritual, you are building a mind that cannot easily be shaken. Number 4, premeditation of adversity. Premeditation of adversity sounds heavy at first, almost gloomy, as if you're being asked to expect the worst from life. But that's not what this Stoic ritual is about. It's not pessimism. It's preparation. It's mental rehearsal. It's choosing to look directly at the possibility of difficulty before it ambushes you. And when you practice it daily, something subtle but powerful begins to happen. You stop being shocked by hardship. You stop being destabilized by inconvenience. You stop collapsing at the first sign of resistance. Instead, you nod inwardly and think, I knew this might come. The Stoics called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Seneca wrote, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." That line alone can reshape how you move through your day. Think about it. Most suffering isn't just about what happens, it's about the surprise of it. The insult you didn't expect, the setback you didn't see coming, the discomfort you assumed you wouldn't have to face. But when you deliberately imagine possible obstacles before they arise, you strip them of their shock value. You shrink their emotional impact. You meet them with readiness instead of outrage. This is a ritual. That means you don't do it randomly. You do it consistently. Every morning before the day begins to tug at you, you sit quietly and ask yourself, what could go wrong today? Not in a frantic way, not in a spiraling way. Calmly, deliberately, you anticipate delays, misunderstandings, criticism, fatigue, discomfort. You allow your mind to briefly touch these possibilities without dramatizing them. You don't dwell, you acknowledge. And then you say to yourself, if this happens, I will respond with patience. If this occurs, I will remain steady. If this arises, I will not be surprised. Marcus Aurelius practiced this constantly. He wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." That's not cynicism. That's armor. By expecting friction, he prevented resentment from taking root. You can do the same. You don't assume everyone will disappoint you. You simply accept that imperfection exists. And because you accept it in advance, you aren't rattled when it appears. There's something empowering about this. You stop negotiating with reality. You stop demanding that the world behave according to your preferences. Instead, you prepare your character. And character, not circumstance, determines your strength. When you visualize potential adversity, you are training your nervous system to stay regulated in the presence of stress. You are rehearsing composure. Athletes rehearse movements before competition. Why wouldn't you rehearse resilience before difficulty? Try this exercise tomorrow morning. Sit somewhere quiet, close your eyes, take 5 slow breaths. Then imagine 3 specific challenges that could realistically arise in your day. See them clearly but briefly. Notice any emotional reaction that surfaces. Don't push it away, just observe it. Then mentally rehearse your calm response. Picture yourself speaking slowly, moving deliberately, choosing restraint over impulse. Feel that steadiness. Let your body experience it before the event ever occurs. This is how you condition mental strength, not by avoiding adversity but by rehearsing your response to it. Another practice, negative visualization. Once a day, reflect on something you value, your comfort, your routine, your stability, and imagine it temporarily removed. Not forever, just long enough to remind yourself that it isn't guaranteed. This sharpens gratitude, yes, but it also reduces fear. When you briefly contemplate loss, you realize you could endure it. The mind adapts. The initial resistance softens, and you begin to understand that your strength is not as fragile as you thought. Epictetus said, "Don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do happen, and you will go on well." Premeditation of adversity aligns you with this principle. It trains you to adjust your expectations before reality forces you to. And that shift is everything. Because expectation is often the source of your frustration. You expect ease, you expect smoothness, you expect cooperation. When those expectations are violated, you react emotionally. But if you expect resistance as part of the process, resistance becomes normal, manageable, almost mundane. This ritual also builds courage. When you mentally confront discomfort voluntarily, you reduce its intimidation factor. Avoidance makes fear grow. Exposure shrinks it. So don't shy away from imagining difficulty. Lean into it gently. Let yourself feel the discomfort in a controlled way. And then remind yourself, I can handle this. Not because it's pleasant, not because it's easy, but because I have trained for it. Be careful though. This practice requires balance. You are not catastrophizing. You are not predicting doom. You are not obsessing over worst-case scenarios. You are calmly acknowledging that life includes friction. That's it. Keep your tone steady. Keep your imagination measured. If you feel yourself spiraling, pull back, return to your breath. This is about strengthening your mind, not overwhelming it. Over time, you will notice a shift. When something unexpected happens, there's a brief pause before your reaction. In that pause lives your strength. You'll think, I anticipated this possibility. And instead of feeling attacked by life, you'll feel prepared for it. That sense of preparedness creates confidence. Quiet confidence. The kind that doesn't need to announce itself. Make this ritual daily. 5 minutes in the morning. Maybe 2 minutes at night, reflecting on how you handled the day's challenges. Ask yourself, did I respond the way I rehearsed? If not, don't criticize, adjust, refine, train again tomorrow. Mental strength isn't built in grand gestures. It's built in these small, repeated acts of discipline. Premeditation of adversity teaches you that hardship is not an interruption of life. It is part of life. And when you accept that fully, when you stop expecting the road to be permanently smooth, you stop being shaken by every bump. You become steadier, more deliberate, harder to destabilize. So start tomorrow, wake up, sit still. Imagine the obstacles, rehearse your composure, and carry that readiness into your day. The world may still throw its challenges at you. That won't change, but you will change. You will meet those challenges with a trained mind instead of a startled one. And that is how you begin building something unbreakable. Number 5, silence before reaction. Silence before reaction is not weakness. It is discipline in its purest form. When something hits you, a sharp word, an unexpected problem, a surge of frustration, your mind wants to leap forward. It wants to defend, correct, retaliate, explain. The impulse feels urgent, almost righteous. But this is exactly where your strength is tested. Not in what you say, not in how fast you respond. In whether you can pause, in whether you can let the first wave pass without riding it. That small pocket of silence, those few deliberate seconds, are where mental strength is forged. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Notice the order there. He didn't rush to speak. He filtered. You must learn to filter. Your first reaction is rarely your wisest one. It is emotional, protective, conditioned. It rises from habit, ego, insecurity, fear. And if you allow it to control your mouth or your actions, you become predictable. You become easy to provoke. That is not unbreakable strength. That is reactivity. Epictetus warned, no man is free who is not master of himself. Mastery begins in the space between stimulus and response. If you cannot sit in that space for a breath or two, then the world owns your buttons. Anyone can press them. Anyone can steer you. So you train yourself to be still, not frozen, not passive, still. When something triggers you, you consciously close your mouth. You inhale slowly through your nose, you feel the air fill your chest. You count to 5 if you need to, you let the chemical rush settle. This is not theatrical, it is neurological. Anger and anxiety spike quickly and fade quickly if you don't feed them. Silence starves them. Words feed them. The more you speak in that heightened state, the more fuel you throw on the fire. You must break that cycle. You must choose quiet first. This ritual is daily because life offers daily opportunities to practice it. Minor irritations, unexpected demands, misunderstandings. You don't wait for major conflict to build this skill. You use the small moments. When you feel the tightening in your chest, the urge to interrupt, the impulse to correct, pause. Let the silence stretch just slightly longer than feels comfortable. You'll notice something interesting. The intensity begins to drop. What felt explosive starts to feel manageable. That's your nervous system recalibrating. That's you reclaiming authority over yourself. Seneca wrote, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." Delay, not suppression, not denial. Delay. There is wisdom in postponement. You are not obligated to react instantly to anything. Read that again. You are not obligated. The world may move fast, conversations may feel urgent, but you always retain the right to pause. When you internalize this, you stop feeling cornered by circumstances. You stop feeling rushed into emotional decisions. Silence becomes your shield. But this ritual requires intention. You can't simply hope you'll remember to pause when emotions surge. You need to rehearse it mentally. Each morning, take a few minutes to visualize yourself encountering something challenging. Imagine the trigger. Feel the first flicker of irritation. Then picture yourself choosing silence. See yourself breathing. See yourself composed. This mental rehearsal wires the response into your brain. Athletes visualize performance, you visualize composure. Over time, it becomes automatic. Another exercise, practice micro pauses throughout your day. Before answering any question, even neutral ones, wait one full breath. Before sending a message, reread it once in silence. Before making a decision, sit with it for 60 seconds. These small acts train restraint. They strengthen your capacity to hold tension without discharging it impulsively. Mental strength is not loud, it is controlled. You may worry that silence makes you look weak or unsure. That's ego talking. In reality, controlled silence projects steadiness. It signals that you are not easily shaken, that you are thinking, that you are choosing your words carefully. And when you do speak, your words carry more weight because they are deliberate, not reactive. You become less scattered, more centered. People sense that difference even if they can't articulate it. There's also a deeper layer to this ritual. Silence before reaction forces you to examine your interpretations. Often, what upsets you is not the event itself, but the story you attach to it. In the pause, you can question that story. Is this truly an attack? Is this genuinely catastrophic? Or is your mind exaggerating? Marcus Aurelius practiced this constantly, reminding himself to see things plainly, stripped of dramatic narrative. You can do the same. Strip the event down to its bare facts. Remove the adjectives, remove the assumptions. Notice how much lighter it feels. When you skip the silence, you surrender to impulse. An impulse is fragile, it cracks under pressure. But when you cultivate silence, you build resilience. You prove to yourself again and again that you are not at the mercy of emotion. That realization is powerful. It changes how you carry yourself. You stop fearing confrontation because you trust your ability to remain composed. You stop dreading discomfort because you know you won't implode at the first sign of tension. Make this a non-negotiable rule. No immediate reactions when emotions spike. Write it down if you must. Commit to it. For 30 days, practice this ritual relentlessly. Track your progress. At the end of each day, reflect briefly. Where did you succeed in pausing? Where did you react too quickly? Don't judge yourself harshly. Just observe. Awareness strengthens discipline. You'll notice something subtle over time. The gap between stimulus and response widens naturally. What once required intense effort begins to feel normal. Silence becomes your default. You feel less drained because you're no longer caught in constant emotional whiplash. Your mind steadies. Your thoughts sharpen. Decisions become cleaner. And here's the truth. Silence is not empty. It is full of choice. In that quiet space, you decide who you want to be. Reactive or deliberate, fragile or grounded, controlled or chaotic. Every pause is a vote for your future self. Cast those votes wisely. So the next time something provokes you, resist the urge to prove yourself instantly. Resist the temptation to defend, to snap, to correct. Close your mouth. Breathe. Let the silence do its work. Trust it. Strength does not need to rush. Strength can wait. And in that waiting, you become harder to break, harder to manipulate, harder to destabilize. You become steady. Silence before reaction is not about saying nothing forever. It's about choosing when to speak. It's about ensuring that when your voice enters the room, it carries clarity instead of chaos. Practice it daily. Guard it fiercely. Let it shape you into someone who is not ruled by emotion but guided by reason. That is Stoic strength. And it is built one quiet pause at a time. Number 6, daily self-discipline ritual. There is something quietly powerful about doing what you said you would do, especially when you don't feel like doing it. That's the heart of a daily self-discipline ritual. Not punishment, not rigidity, not turning your life into a joyless checklist. It's about proving to yourself again and again that your word means something, that when you decide, you follow through. And that consistency, practiced daily, becomes a kind of internal steel. The Stoics understood this. Epictetus said, "No great thing is created suddenly. Mental strength is not born in dramatic moments. It is built in the quiet repetition of small, deliberate acts of discipline. You don't need to overhaul your life to begin. In fact, don't. That urge to reinvent everything overnight is just another form of impatience. Instead, choose one small, slightly uncomfortable action that you will complete every single day. It should be simple but not easy. Something that requires you to override resistance, because that's the point. Resistance is the training ground. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, at dawn when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. He wasn't relying on motivation. He was relying on duty, on identity, on the quiet understanding that discipline is part of being fully human. So you start there. You decide that each day you will do one thing that strengthens your will. Maybe it's waking up at the same time, regardless of mood. Maybe it's taking a cold shower. Maybe it's reading 10 pages of something challenging before touching your phone. It doesn't matter what the ritual is as much as it matters that you keep it. Every time you complete it, you cast a vote for the version of you who does hard things calmly. You reinforce the belief that you are not controlled by impulses. You are not dragged around by comfort-seeking habits. You choose, you act, you follow through. And here's the shift you need to make. Stop negotiating with yourself. When the time comes to complete your ritual, don't open a debate. Don't ask how you feel about it. Feelings are weather. They change hourly. Discipline is climate. It is stable. When the moment arrives, you move. You act before the mind begins its clever excuses. Seneca wrote, while we wait for life, life passes. Don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait to feel inspired. Begin and let the action shape your state. There will be days when your mind protests loudly. It will offer reasonable arguments. It will tell you that skipping once doesn't matter, that you deserve a break, that tomorrow will be better. Listen to those thoughts without obeying them. That's the practice. You are not trying to silence your inner resistance. You are training yourself not to be ruled by it. That's mental strength. The ability to hear the voice of comfort and still choose growth. To deepen this ritual, add a moment of conscious reflection before and after. Before you begin your daily act of discipline, pause for 30 seconds. Remind yourself why you are doing it, not for external praise, not for dramatic transformation, but to build command over your own mind. After you complete it, take another 30 seconds to acknowledge that you followed through. Let yourself feel the quiet satisfaction. Don't rush past it. That reinforcement matters. You are wiring your brain to associate discipline with identity, not suffering. Another powerful layer to this ritual is voluntary discomfort. The Stoics practiced this intentionally. They would occasionally sleep on the floor, eat simple food, or expose themselves to cold, not to be extreme, but to remind themselves that they could endure. You can adopt a mild version of this. Choose one small discomfort each day and lean into it instead of away. Stay in the silence instead of reaching for distraction. Finish the last few repetitions when your body wants to quit. Sit with an urge without acting on it. Tell yourself calmly, I can handle this. Because you can. And every time you do, your threshold expands. Write this question somewhere, you'll see it. Who is in charge here? When laziness creeps in, when procrastination tempts you, when you feel that pull toward ease, ask it. Who is in charge? Your impulses or you? Don't answer with words. Answer with action. That is your proof. Understand that this ritual is not about perfection. You are not aiming to become robotic. You are aiming to become reliable to yourself. If you miss a day, you don't spiral into self-criticism. You don't abandon the practice. You resume immediately. The strength is not in never falling off. It's in returning without drama. Marcus Aurelius wrote, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. The same applies to setbacks. Don't inflate them. Correct course and continue. As this ritual becomes part of your daily rhythm, something subtle begins to shift. You start trusting yourself more. Your internal dialogue changes. Instead of thinking, I hope I can handle this, you think, I've handled harder, because you have. In small, invisible ways every day, discipline compounds. It accumulates quietly until one day you realize that what used to feel overwhelming now feels manageable. Make it sacred. Protect it. Even if it's just 10 minutes a day. Especially if it's just 10 minutes a day. In a world that constantly pulls at your attention, the act of choosing a deliberate, disciplined behavior is revolutionary. You are reclaiming authority over your time, your focus, your energy. And that authority builds unbreakable mental strength. So start today. Not tomorrow, not next week. Choose your ritual, write it down, commit to it for 30 days. No excuses, no negotiations. When resistance appears, and it will, smile at it. That's your signal that the training is working. Step forward anyway. Complete the act, reflect, repeat. Day by day, you are forging something solid inside yourself. Not loud confidence, not fragile motivation, something steadier, something durable. The kind of strength that doesn't crack under pressure because it has been tested in small ways consistently. That's the power of a daily self-discipline ritual. It seems simple. It is simple. And if you commit to it fully, it will change you from the inside out. Number 7, evening self-review and journaling. At the end of your day, when the noise begins to thin and the world finally loosens its grip on your attention, you have a choice. You can drift into distraction, letting the hours dissolve into mindless scrolling or restless thinking. Or you can sit down, open a notebook, and face yourself. That second option, the quiet, deliberate act of evening self-review and journaling, is where mental strength is forged. Not in grand gestures, not in public victories, but in the privacy of honest reflection. This is where you sharpen your character. This is where you build something unbreakable. The Stoics took this seriously. Seneca wrote, "When the light has been removed and my wife has fallen silent, aware of this habit which is now my own, I examine my entire day and go back over what I've done and said." Imagine that level of discipline. He didn't wait for crisis. He didn't wait for failure. He reviewed every single day. And you should too, because without reflection, your days blur together. You repeat the same mistakes. You reinforce the same weaknesses. But when you review your actions nightly, you interrupt that cycle. You become conscious. And consciousness is power. Don't overcomplicate this. You don't need a perfect leather journal or an aesthetic desk. You need 10 to 15 minutes, that's it. Sit down, take a breath. Then ask yourself 3 simple but piercing questions. What did I do well today? Where did I fall short? How can I improve tomorrow? Write the answers down. Don't just think them, write them. There's something about seeing your thoughts on paper that makes them harder to escape from. You can't hide behind vague impressions when the ink forces clarity. Be honest, but don't be cruel. This isn't about tearing yourself apart. It's about strengthening your judgment. Marcus Aurelius filled his private notes, what we now call meditations, with reminders, corrections, encouragements to himself. He wasn't performing. He was training. That's what you're doing here. You're training your mind to observe itself. You're stepping outside your impulses and looking at them with calm scrutiny. That alone builds resilience. When you can examine your behavior without flinching, you become harder to destabilize. As you write, pay attention to your reactions throughout the day. Not the events themselves, but how you responded. Did you lose patience? Did you hesitate when you should have acted? Did you let fear guide a decision? Or did you remain steady? Did you choose discipline over comfort? This is where Stoic philosophy becomes practical. Epictetus reminded his students that we control our judgments and choices. That's it. Not outcomes, not other people. Your journal becomes the laboratory where you analyze those judgments. You begin to see patterns, and once you see a pattern, you can change it. Here's a practical exercise to deepen this ritual. At the end of your entry, write one sentence that begins with "Tomorrow I will." Keep it specific. Keep it realistic. You're not rewriting your entire personality overnight. You're adjusting course by degrees. Small, steady corrections. That's how strength compounds. Then the next evening, check whether you followed through. If you didn't, don't spiral into self-criticism. Just note it, study it, ask why. Was it distraction, fear, laziness? Awareness precedes improvement. You also need to learn the art of self-forgiveness within this ritual. Stoicism is not about perfection, it's about progress. Seneca admitted his own flaws openly in his letters. He didn't pretend to be beyond error. Neither should you. The point of reviewing your day isn't to shame yourself into growth. Shame weakens, clarity strengthens. When you acknowledge a mistake calmly, you strip it of its emotional sting. You turn it into data, and data is useful. There will be nights when you don't feel like doing this. You'll be tired, irritated, restless. That's precisely when you should do it. Discipline is most powerful when it's inconvenient. If you only reflect when you're in the mood, you're still governed by impulse. But when you sit down despite resistance, you send yourself a message: I am in charge here. That message, repeated nightly, reshapes your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who does the work, quietly, consistently. Another powerful addition to your evening review is gratitude, not fluffy gratitude, but grounded acknowledgement. Write down one difficulty you faced and how it strengthened you. Even if you stumbled, identify the lesson embedded in it. Marcus Aurelius often reframed obstacles as opportunities to practice virtue. You can do the same. This trains your mind to look for growth instead of grievance. Over time, this shift becomes automatic. You stop seeing setbacks as personal attacks and start seeing them as training grounds. Keep your journaling direct. Avoid dramatic language. Aim for precision. Instead of writing, everything was overwhelming, specify what actually unsettled you. Name it, dissect it. The more precise you are, the less power vague anxiety holds over you. Mental strength thrives on specificity. When you know exactly where you faltered, you know exactly where to apply effort. You might also experiment with rating your day, not based on productivity but on character. On a scale from 1 to 10, how aligned were your actions with your values? This forces you to define those values clearly. Courage, temperance, justice, wisdom, the core Stoic virtues. Did you act in accordance with them, or did you drift? This isn't about chasing a perfect score. It's about tracking alignment. Over weeks and months, you'll notice trends, and trends reveal truth. As this ritual becomes ingrained, something subtle shifts. You start living your days differently because you know you'll be reviewing them later. You pause before reacting because you anticipate writing about it. You choose better because you don't want to confront avoidable regret at night. This is how evening reflection strengthens your daytime behavior. The review shapes the performance. Eventually, your journal becomes a record of evolution. You'll flip back through pages and see growth documented in your own handwriting. You'll notice how challenges that once rattled you barely register now. That's not accidental. That's earned. Through repetition. Through honesty. Through sitting down night after night and asking yourself hard questions without flinching. So start tonight. Don't postpone it. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Take a notebook. Sit somewhere quiet. Breathe slowly. Review your day with courage and calm. Write it down. Commit to one small improvement for tomorrow. Then close the journal and rest, knowing you've strengthened your mind in a way most people never do. This ritual won't make you flashy. It won't make you loud, but it will make you steady. And steady over time becomes unbreakable. Number 8, detachment from praise and blame. Detachment from praise and blame is one of the hardest daily disciplines you will ever practice, and also one of the most freeing. You are wired to care about what people think. Your nervous system lights up when approval comes your way. It tightens when criticism lands. A compliment can lift you for hours. A harsh word can echo in your head for days. But if your emotional state rises and falls on the opinions of others, then your inner world is not truly yours. It's rented out. And mental strength begins when you take that lease back. The Stoics were relentless about this. Epictetus warned, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. That's uncomfortable, isn't it? You don't want to be misunderstood. You don't want to be dismissed. Yet the moment you require universal approval, you hand over your stability. Praise becomes addictive. Blame becomes devastating. You start performing instead of living. You adjust your behavior to chase applause or avoid disapproval, and without realizing it, you drift further away from your own compass. So here's your daily ritual. Begin each morning by reminding yourself that praise and blame are external events. They are sounds, air vibrations, interpretations. They are not facts about your worth. They are not permanent verdicts on your character. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others." Read that slowly. You do this too. You trust strangers passing judgments more than your own considered self-assessment. Why? You need to flip that script. Not by becoming arrogant, not by ignoring feedback entirely, but by refusing to let either praise or blame define you. When someone praises you, practice receiving it without clinging to it. Don't replay it repeatedly. Don't build your identity around it. Simply acknowledge it and let it pass through. Tell yourself, this is their perception, not my essence. When someone criticizes you, don't collapse. Pause, breathe, separate useful information from emotional charge. Ask, is there truth here I can use? If yes, adjust calmly. If no, release it. Either way, you remain steady. This requires training. You cannot expect emotional neutrality overnight. Start small. At the end of each day, reflect on moments when you felt lifted by approval or stung by criticism. Write them down. Then next to each, answer 2 questions. Did this change who I am? Did this alter my core values? Most of the time, the answer will be no. Seeing it in writing helps you weaken the illusion that external voices hold ultimate authority. Seneca offered a powerful reminder: he who is brave is free. And bravery here doesn't mean loud defiance. It means quiet independence. It means you are willing to be misunderstood if it means staying aligned with your principles. That's not easy. Your ego will resist. It will crave validation. It will want reassurance. But you are training something deeper than ego. You are training character. Try this practical exercise. Deliberately practice anonymity in your mind. Imagine doing your work, pursuing your goals, living your values with no applause at the end. No recognition, no commentary, just the quiet knowledge that you acted well. Notice any discomfort that arises. That discomfort reveals how attached you are to external reward. Sit with it. Don't judge it, just observe. Over time, you will feel a subtle shift. You will begin to value the action itself more than the reaction to it. Another daily ritual is what the Stoics called the view from above. Close your eyes for a few minutes and picture yourself from a distance. Then zoom out further. See the crowd of humanity. See the vastness of time stretching before and after you. Now place that single compliment or criticism into this enormous frame. How large does it feel now? How permanent? This perspective dissolves exaggeration. It shrinks inflated praise and softens harsh blame. It reminds you that most opinions are fleeting ripples in a very large ocean. You must also examine your motives. Ask yourself honestly, am I doing this to be admired? Am I avoiding this to escape criticism? Awareness is power. Once you spot the pattern, you can interrupt it. Choose actions rooted in virtue rather than validation. The Stoics emphasized virtue as the only true good, not reputation, not status, not applause, just integrity. If your actions align with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline, then praise becomes unnecessary and blame becomes less threatening. There will be days when criticism feels sharp. That's human. But instead of reacting defensively, train yourself to delay your response. Give yourself space before speaking or deciding. This pause is everything. It prevents emotional reflex from hijacking your reason. Epictetus taught that when something disturbs you, it's not the thing itself but your judgment about it, so adjust the judgment. Say to yourself, this is information, not an attack on my being. That shift alone builds resilience. Likewise, be cautious with praise. It can inflate you. It can create pressure to maintain an image. It can make you fearful of slipping. When you receive praise, ground yourself by returning to effort. Remind yourself that you are a work in progress, not finished, not flawless, just committed. Let praise encourage you briefly, then redirect your focus to continued growth. Don't build a throne out of compliments. Thrones are unstable. Mental strength grows when your self-worth is internally anchored. That means developing a clear understanding of your values and reviewing them often. Write them down. Revisit them weekly. Ask yourself whether your actions reflect them. This is your measuring stick, not applause, not criticism. When your evaluation system is internal, you become less reactive and more deliberate. You are not trying to become emotionally numb. Detachment is not indifference. It is balance. It is the ability to hear feedback without losing yourself. It is the ability to accept praise without becoming dependent on it. It is calm self-possession, and that kind of steadiness is rare, but you can cultivate it one day at a time. So make this your ritual. Each morning, remind yourself that today you may encounter praise and blame. Expect both, prepare for both, and decide in advance that neither will control you. Each evening, reflect on how well you held that line. Adjust gently. Improve gradually. Stay patient. Over time, you will notice something powerful. Your mood becomes less volatile. Your decisions become clearer. Your sense of identity becomes firmer. You stop chasing approval. You stop fearing disapproval. You start acting from conviction rather than reaction. And that is unbreakable mental strength, not loud, not flashy, but deeply rooted. Calm, steady, yours. Number 9, remembering impermanence, memento mori. There's something quietly powerful about remembering that you won't be here forever. Not in a dark, dramatic way. Not in a way that drains the color from your days, but in a way that sharpens them. The Stoics called it memento mori, remember that you must die. And before you recoil from that phrasing, slow down, sit with it. This practice isn't about fear, it's about clarity, it's about stripping away illusion. When you truly accept impermanence, your excuses lose their grip. Your procrastination weakens. Your petty frustrations shrink. You stop acting like you have unlimited tomorrows. And that shift, that's where mental strength begins to crystallize. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." That isn't meant to scare you, it's meant to wake you up. You walk around assuming time is guaranteed. You behave as if opportunities will circle back indefinitely, but they won't. And when you fully understand that, your priorities reorganize themselves. Suddenly, the approval you were chasing feels trivial. The resentment you were feeding feels heavy and pointless. The comfort you were clinging to feels less important than growth. Impermanence burns away what doesn't matter. It forces you to confront what does. This ritual is not something you practice once and forget. It's daily. It's intentional. It's steady. You begin by simply reminding yourself each morning, I am not permanent. This day is not permanent. The people around me are not permanent. Say it quietly. Don't rush past it. Let the words land. You're not trying to create anxiety. You're cultivating urgency with composure. There's a difference. Anxiety scrambles you. Urgency clarifies you. When you remember that your time is finite, you stop negotiating with your higher standards. You stop telling yourself later. You act now. Seneca put it bluntly. You act like mortals in all that you fear and like immortals in all that you desire. Read that slowly. You fear small inconveniences as if they're catastrophic, yet you postpone meaningful action as if you have centuries. Memento mori corrects that imbalance. It reminds you that delay is expensive. Every wasted hour is unrecoverable. That doesn't mean you must become frantic or obsessive. It means you become deliberate. You choose your thoughts more carefully. You choose your responses more consciously. You stop pouring energy into things that won't matter when viewed from the edge of your life. To build this ritual, start with 5 quiet minutes a day. Sit somewhere without distraction. Close your eyes. Imagine your life from a distance as if you are observing it from the far future. See how brief each phase is. See how quickly moments pass. Don't dramatize it, just observe. Then ask yourself, if today were limited, how would I show up differently? What would I stop tolerating? What would I finally begin? Let the answers surface without forcing them. This exercise isn't about intensity. It's about perspective. Impermanence also dismantles ego. When you remember that you are temporary, your pride softens. Your need to win every argument fades. Your obsession with status weakens. Epictetus reminded his students that they are actors in a play, assigned roles they did not choose. Some roles are long, some are short. Your task is not to control the length. It is to perform well while you're on stage. When the curtain falls, it falls. That awareness strengthens you because it shifts your focus from outcome to conduct. You stop trying to control the uncontrollable. You start refining your character instead. Here, another practice. Write your own eulogy, not in a morbid tone, in an honest one. What would you want to be remembered for? Courage, integrity, discipline, compassion. Now compare that to how you're currently living. Are your daily actions aligned with that vision, or are you drifting? Memento mori pulls you back from drift. It forces alignment. It demands that you live intentionally rather than accidentally. You also need to apply impermanence to your struggles. The difficulty you're facing right now, it will end. The tension, the uncertainty, the discomfort, it is temporary. Everything is. When you internalize that truth, you gain resilience. You stop catastrophizing. You stop assuming permanence in pain. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Observe constantly that all things take place by change." Change is the rule, not the exception. So when you feel overwhelmed, remind yourself, this too will shift. Not because you wish it away, but because nothing remains fixed. That thought alone can steady you. But don't let impermanence become an excuse for apathy. Some people misunderstand this ritual and think, if everything ends, why try? That's the wrong conclusion. The correct conclusion is the opposite. Because everything ends, you must try. Because your time is limited, your effort matters more. Because moments disappear, presence becomes sacred. Memento mori isn't nihilistic, it's energizing. It tells you that today counts precisely because it won't repeat. Practice letting go of minor irritations as a training ground. When something small frustrates you, pause and ask, will this matter at the end of my life? Most of the time, the answer is no. Feel how that realization loosens your grip. Feel how quickly anger dissolves when measured against mortality. That's strength. That's perspective forged in truth. You can deepen this ritual by carrying a physical reminder. It doesn't have to be dramatic. A simple phrase written in your journal, a small symbol, something that nudges you daily, not to frighten you but to focus you. When you see it, take one breath and remember, I am temporary. Let me live accordingly. Let me speak carefully. Let me act with intention. Mental strength isn't built by pretending you're invincible. It's built by accepting that you're not. When you embrace impermanence, you stop wasting energy on denial. You stop running from the truth. And in doing so, you become steadier, calmer, more deliberate. You stop fearing endings because you understand they are natural. You stop clinging so tightly. You start appreciating more deeply. So don't avoid this ritual. Lean into it. Reflect daily. Confront your limits without flinching. Use the awareness of death not as a shadow but as a compass. Let it guide your choices. Let it refine your standards. Let it strip away trivial pursuits. When you remember that your time is finite, you stop living half-heartedly. You begin to live with precision, with purpose, with quiet intensity, and over time, something remarkable happens. The fear of loss weakens. The fear of failure softens. Because you realize that everything, success, embarrassment, praise, criticism, will fade. What remains is how you conducted yourself. What remains is the character you built. Memento mori teaches you to build that character daily without delay. That is unbreakable mental strength. Before you go, remember this. Mental strength isn't built in moments of motivation. It's built in the quiet, daily rituals you choose to repeat. Stoicism was never about grand speeches or dramatic change. It was about discipline, reflection, and showing up for yourself every single day. If you commit to even one of these rituals consistently, you'll start noticing a shift, calmer reactions, sharper focus, and a deeper sense of control over your life. Imagine what happens when you practice all 9. If this video helped you, like it, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs mental strength right now. And most importantly, don't just watch, apply. Because the strongest minds aren't loud, they're unshakable.